Good morning, British literature students. Welcome to week number 6 of the spring 2016 semester. All right, so very short reading assignment this week. The only thing I've really got for you is I want you to go through that Introduction to Victorianism slideshow and kind of take a look at the stuff of that to kind of get an idea of what we're going to be looking at in the new volume of the textbook, which is volume E. It has the painting of the real pretty woman on front of it. By the way, that painting was done by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. We're not going to read him, but we will read his sister's work, which is Christina Rossetti, when we read Goblin Market later this semester. So, that's the book we're in now. So that little purplish book, you can put that off to the side and leave it there unless you intend to write your research paper on something we did in Romanticism. All right, so Victorianism is my favorite thing. And this is my favorite part of the semester because we're going to talk about some authors that I really, really like. And there's a wide variety of them because the Victorian period lasted 60 years. Or actually 65 years or something like that. So there's a lot of variety and a lot of changes happen in the world in 65 years. And the writings that we're going to read as we progress through the Victorian period, starting with Tennyson this week and then leading up to, I believe, Kipling is going to be the last author we read in the Victorian period, you're going to see a very wide variety. And most of the student papers that I get when the research paper time comes from this Victorian period. So if you haven't been very fond of the Romantics, fear not. You're going to see kind of a major change as we go through Victorianism. And then the only author I've got you reading is Alfred Lord Tennyson. You're going to read both The Lady of Shalott and Ulysses. Both of these are takes upon mythological people. Lady of Shalott takes place during the reign of King Arthur, and then Ulysses takes place after the Odyssey takes place, which is ancient Greek mythology written by Homer. So it helps to kind of know a little bit of the background of King Arthur's story and Sir Lancelot, and then the background of Ulysses. You could very quickly, I don't want you to have to read all of King Arthur or have to read all of Ulysses, or the Odyssey, or even the Iliad, because that would take you the entire semester. But, maybe a quick Google search of these two characters of Ulysses and King Arthur and Sir Lancelot, and perhaps The Lady of Shalott, a quick Google search can tell you a little bit of background information. Then you can have that background information for when you read these two. Lady of Shalott is oftentimes used as a symbolic gesture towards a young girl's loss of innocence. And by innocence, we don't just mean sexual innocence, but getting out there in the real world, out of the protections that we afford young girls as they grow up, and getting a few bumps and bruises and scraping her knee a couple of times, and all the things that children have to go through to become stronger adults. So once that innocence is lost, it's gone forever, and it's essentially dead. Others also think of it as a metaphor for writing and creativity and art. Our Lady of Shalott here is a weaver, and so she seeks inspiration and she creates an artificial world, whereas the real world actually is much more dangerous and much more deadly. Then you got Ulysses. This particular poem takes place after the Odyssey. So this is after Ulysses has made it, his 20-year journey back from the Trojan War to his wife, and he realizes that he's too much of an adventurer. He can't stay still. He can't stay at home. So he's going to essentially gather up a group of men. They're going to go off on more great adventures, and he's going to turn his kingdom over to his son, Telemachus. So think about that. Think about if you've lived an adventurous life and a hard life and battle, then all of a sudden now, towards the end of your life, you're an old man, and you're just not going on adventure anymore. You're going to a 9-to-5 work-a-day job. And that's kind of where Ulysses finds himself. And he just can't stand it anymore. So he's going to change that by gathering these men up and giving them a grand speech and then off on an adventure. So that's this week's reading, just one author. I think you'll find the postings are going to be fine as well. Okay, so with that out of mind, I do want to take a moment to talk about something that happened yesterday. A student wrote to several of you basically complaining about me and asking for help. Now, if the student wanted to ask you for help, and it turns out that you can be helpful to the student, that part of the equation is okay. But the part where she attacks me directly, that is something that I need to speak to you about a little bit. I'm sorry that this student brought you into our conflict. I'm not going to bash this student. I'm not going to say bad things about this student. But what I will say is that she and I have had an antagonistic relationship pretty much from the very first posting. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And you wouldn't even know about that had she not sent you out an email talking about how, she wishes she hadn't wasted her money on this class and how bad an instructor I am. So, here's what I do want to say to everybody, though. And I said it in the email, and I'll go ahead and say it in this video. If you're still struggling with these postings, contact me. Contact me directly. Either through email, asking a specific question. Don't just say, I don't understand your comments, because I don't know where to go with that. But say, I don't understand what you mean by specific details, or something like that. And then I'll be more than happy to go ahead and try and clarify that for you. Sometimes my answer may be, you need to call me on my phone. Because, honestly, there have been numerous times, I can't even count them on all my fingers and toes. There have been numerous times where students have struggled with the written instructions or the comments. But they call me on the telephone, and 5 minutes later, they're like, I got it now. And their posting grades improve dramatically. So sometimes, and these are called learning styles. There's several of them. There's read and write, visual, audio, and then, of course, kinesthetic, which basically means doing it, action. So sometimes a telephone call that takes 5 or 10 minutes can clear up everything that it would take me an hour to try and clear up in an email, and then the 1 hour email still doesn't work. So if I send you back an email saying, hey, call me, instead of me trying to do this through emails, it's because it's been an effective method in the past, and it's been something that I think that can help you if you're having trouble with the written instructions. Now, that's the negative. Now let me talk about some positives here. And I want to start with the Romanticism exam. Every single student in this class who took the Romanticism exam passed it. So kudos to you for that. I am very pleased. I was very pleased to look at the results of the Romanticism exam this morning and find that everybody who took it, now there were some that got zeros, but every student who took it actually got a C or higher. I smiled from ear to ear on that. I really enjoyed that. And I hope that will continue through the Romanticism exam, the 20th century exam, and then, of course, the research paper. These postings are worth about 15% of your grade. If you're not doing well in the first couple, you can still recover. And here's one other thing I've just added to help you with that. There were 2 students in this class. There were actually more than 2 students who got 10s on the postings this week, which is good. What that means is that those students have read my comments, and those students have made the adjustments that are necessary to get higher scores on these postings. 2 students actually gave me permission to show you their discussion postings and point them out as examples of what everybody should aspire to in these postings. So the email lists in great detail what I want you to look at. The email also mentions that one of those 2 students actually did get a 5 in the first posting, which several students got because of the struggles. But then that student turned it right around after reading my comments and applying my comments and got a 10 on the very next posting. And that is one of the 2 postings that I sent you an email. So look in the D2L email, open that document, look at what these students have done. If they can do it, then you can do it. There's no reason why by the time we get to a couple of weeks from now that you shouldn't all be getting 10s. That's really what I'm hoping for. I'm not asking for a lot, a couple of paragraphs, but I'm asking you to take these postings seriously. I'm asking you to read my comments. I'm asking you to read the instruction sheet that I have in the assignment instructions folder, and I'm asking you to try to implement those changes. Usually by the end of a semester, in most semesters, most students are getting 9s and 10s on every single posting. And that comes from actually taking the comments to heart and applying them. Now, I'm going to make you this deal. If I see significant improvement in these postings from now until the end of the semester, I will drop your lowest non-zero posting grade. So, one of those 5s or 6s you got can disappear and not be factored into the grade, as long as I see significant improvement from all students throughout the rest of the semester. So I've, and again, one of these two students went from a 5 to a 10 in 1 week. So that means if you try to emulate students, now don't copy the students, because if you do that, that's plagiarism, you get a 0. But if you emulate these students and try to do what they did, you should see your grades go up. And I'm going to grade the 2 postings on Wollstonecraft and Blake and Keats within the next day or so. And then after that, I'm going to stop making comments. I'm just going to stick numbers on the grades. Because by the time I've gotten through 4 of your postings, you should have a pretty good idea of how to write postings that score 9s and 10s. And usually if you see a 10, there's nothing for me to say anyway. Just great job, bam, 10, there it is. So that's the positive side of this class, is that everybody passed the Romanticism exam, and students that have gotten 10s are willing to allow me to show you their postings and say, hey, this is what it takes to get a 10. And to those 2 students, I want to say thank you very much. You're doing your classmates a big favor, and you're doing me a big favor, because it takes me a lot less time to grade a 10 posting than it does to grade a 5 posting. So thank you so much for helping us all. So that's it for this week. One author. It's an author that's probably easier to understand than what we've had the last couple of weeks, and I think these readings are more enjoyable, and I think that you're going to like them as well. And so on that note, have a great week, and we'll see you or hear from you soon.